Okay, hello everybody. This is a little different than videos that I have been doing because I was challenged by John Watson, one of the co-authors of Blood on the Blasted Lands, challenged me to do a 31-day character creation challenge. And I guess I might be in a world of pain, but I decided to accept this challenge. I decided to do on video because then you can see all the steps that I have to go through for the different characters, as well as it's easier to talk than to type things down. So I decided for my first day to go ahead and just do a basic D&D character from the old BECMI, the very first book from the BECMI series, the famous red cover from the red box. This is I don't know what printing it is, but it's the original. I got this way back in the 80s. So that is it for the player's manual. It also came with a Dungeon Master's rule book, and I do find it very interesting because as games have progressed, if you want to say evolution, you can. I don't consider things evolution because evolution doesn't have a mind behind them, but if you think role-playing games have progressed, there's usually role-playing games in a lot of books, in Dungeon Master books or in main books if they don't have a Dungeon Master book specifically, and they always have like what they consider the main rule, the most important rule, and it can be anything from have fun, that's the main rule, or the main rule can be there are no rules, or change the rules, make the game your own, which I always say, and stuff like that. Not as my main rule, but I always say make the game your own. This old school, when I was kind of going through it, book has actually a really good, what I would consider a really good most important rule. And that's mainly for the game master, but they usually are for the game master or the dungeon master in the case of D&D. It is be fair. And when you're especially talking about old school games, and there see Mars is interested because I have to set up the camera sideways and I'm doing things from the side, but Mars is like really confused at what's going on. Come on, Mars, you're gonna have to let me have the table now. But what I'm saying is most important rule, old school games, and if you go back to my earlier videos that I was talking about old school versus new school, being fair is one of the best things a game master, dungeon master can do, because when you have the old school mentality of combat as battle and not as sport, and when you have things where the monsters are being devious and trying to outmaneuver and outsmart player characters and player characters, there's not a weird, or I won't say weird, but there's not a game system devised with all of these feats that if you don't have a specific feat, you can't do something. A lot of old school is like Game Master may I, Dungeon DM may I want to do this, can I do this? And the Dungeon Master in this in D&D or Game Master is going to have to make that decision. And being fair is one of the best rules. I mean, it is the most important rule, and I can absolutely see it for old school Dungeons and Dragons game or any type of old school game, because without a game master being fair, if a game master didn't like what a player did and all of a sudden was like, Zeus throws down a big bolt of lightning and picks up, I have 4d6 here, but picks up like 20d6 and you take that much damage, ha ha ha. I mean, that was a pretty good roll there. Could kill characters or instant death and things like that. So I just wanted to mention, I just picked up I thought I picked up the player book, and I actually picked up the Game Master book, and I read that Be Fair, and I thought that is a very good most important rule, especially for an old school game like this. Now, in the player's manual here, when you first open it up, they you know, just like most games, they'll talk about what role playing is, what you do. But this game, and I want to say this, the artwork is some of the old evocative artwork. These are the things that kind of got me starting to want to role play. As I've stated before, I didn't really like D&D because of the game master. We were all young, so I can't say he was a bad game master. I just say we were young and we didn't know what we were doing. But there is a lot of evocative type artwork that kind of caught my imagination and made me want to play that first time. And then I really didn't like the experience. But later, I liked getting these books, even if I didn't really like the game a lot, because I always was able to mine these for details. And since D&D is kind of the base role-playing game, a lot of times I couldn't get people to play the games I wanted to play. I had to get people, or I had to join what other people were playing, and other people were playing D&D, and I loved role-playing, so I sometimes play games I don't necessarily love. In this game, they had a whole thing where they kind of make you a fighter at the beginning and tell you how to even shop and do stuff, how to design maps, because there was no things like Roll20 or pretty maps laid out. They gave you, in this book actually, they gave you one sheet of graph paper that you could actually print off and make your own maps. And they even have what they call a mapper and a caller, which were kind of roles that people that weren't the dungeon master would do, and kind of showed you base map making, which is kind of a lost art. And it was always one of those things that sometimes the game master would say, you know, 20 feet ahead, and a player might do it 30 feet or only 10 feet. And then later on, their maps didn't quite work out. But it gave that thing of, you know, the cartographer, the map maker of the party might not be perfect. And it kind of gave a little personality, in my opinion, to stuff. And they even had like a choose your own adventure type module for a solo play. But you get to a point where I was they're showing the different character classes. And in basic, the BECMI D&D, the magic, or the elf, the dwarf, and the halfling were all character classes. They didn't break up races from character classes, so they were all the same, which is another thing that is kind of interesting in my... Sorry about the pause there. Basically, I looked over, and the microphone that I'm using, because it seems like when I've been using the microphone connected to my webcam that I use to make these videos, my voice is a little hard to hear, so I brought out an older microphone that at some point was dying, and I looked over and it looked like it had turned off, and I was like, have I been doing this entire thing without the microphone on, even though I checked it beforehand? But maybe it's the light or something, so I just wanted to check that and didn't want to waste your time more than I normally waste time. But yeah, the races and character classes in basic BECMI D&D are the same, and they go through this thing, and I was trying to figure out where it actually told me. I knew I needed to roll some 3d6s to get some stats, and that I wouldn't pick an elf or a dwarf. I would have to roll some stats and see if those would be good for an elf or dwarf. But I was having trouble finding it, because immediately you go to the cleric, and in the old school BECMI clerics, I remembered you didn't even get spells at first level. You had to wait till second level to get your first spells, which was pretty amusing. So I did find out, it said go way back here to like page 40 something, and that's where you'll learn how to make a character. So if you go to page 48, then it finally tells you roll ability scores. So if I look over here to roll ability scores, it says instead of just making numbers up for your ability scores, which, I mean, could you imagine that? I think I'll be 18 in everything. You will roll dice to find each score. This is done by rolling the 6-sided die 3 times and adding the results. Or if you have 6-sided dice, roll 3 dice together. Example, if you roll 1 each time, then the total score is 3, the least possible. If you roll all 6s, then the total is 18, the highest you can have. You should finish with 6 numbers, each between 3 and 18, which are your character's ability scores. Write them down as you roll them next to the name. So I want to just look and read real fast to myself. I'll maybe be able to show you that picture up here of the 3 different demi-humans while I read this. I guess it says that you might roll low, and then it says, ask your game master. They might not want you to play a character with such low abilities, so that's kind of funny. And then they say if you got 2 or more that are less than 6, you may have problems, and the character should be discarded. So then you just like roll again, or you might be able to adjust. And they did have a neat way of adjusting, which I believe, if it was the same as what was in the rules cyclopedia, which was basically the BECMI part of BECMI put together in about 1991. They allowed you to lower only certain attributes by like 2 points to raise another one by 1 point. So I'm just going to do 3d6. So I have my dice, give them a good. And that was pretty good. So we have 14. Whoops, I messed up my camera. But we have a 14 strength. So then let's see what I got for my intelligence. I'll do 3. Got another good one. 12. And an 11. Still not terrible, but they are kind of going down. Up there we go, 13. So doing decent. This is not a character that I would be afraid to play. And that would be 13 again. So 6, 5, 11, and 14. So actually this is a pretty good character. Everything kind of right in the middle. These are old Vegas dice. Actually, these 2 are Vegas dice. These 2 are a different casino in St. Charles, but they're all casino dice. They usually don't always roll that well, so I am happy with my scores. So with this, my first thing, and kind of like before I forgot that you should roll before you choose your class, I was thinking that I would be an elf, because I liked the elves in basic D&D because they were like fighters that could get magic too. Even though they did have a level cap, I always liked the idea at the low levels that they had that ability to do both magic and swinging swords and stuff. So what I will do here is it says that an elf intelligence, and I needed a minimum of a 9, which I definitely got with a 12, and the prime requisites are strength and intelligence of 14 and 12, so I would consider that pretty decent. So let's go to, I don't think I need to exchange any ability scores. Everything else looks pretty different. There was rules here on how to do it. You couldn't lower anything less than a 9 and stuff like that. But now that I have my race / class, I guess, let's see. I open up to the elf. So we got the elf right here, and that's part of the elf and the halfling. So the elf, to get to 2nd level, I need 4,000 experience. So is there a place to write that? Here, special abilities. I guess not, but I'll write my name. I know my name, so I'm Lehman. And if I wanted to say, let's say that I wanted to do an elf, oh, let me me call this elf Elar, the elf. And in basic D&D, you didn't have the 9 different alignments. You basically had lawful, neutral, and chaos. So I want him to be a nice elf, so I'll make him a lawful elf. Your elf should use this title. So the title I have is the Veteran Medium. So he is Ilar, the Veteran Medium. Part of the I think the veteran comes from the fighter part, and the medium comes from the elf part. If an elf has a score of 13 more in both, they get a 5% bonus, but I don't. So I only have it in the 14. So no extra little bonus experience for me. The interesting thing now is my hit dice. I get a 1d6 and it's not adjusted. Oh, but plus the constitution, I guess it says, which I doubt I have with a 13. But ooh, I got a 6. Got the maximum hit points. I'm feeling like I got a buff elf here. Special abilities. You have infra vision, which he can see 60 at night. So I got 60 foot infravision. They can see heat and lack of heat. Languages. In addition to the language of all characters, the common and alignment tongues. So I have lawful and I guess I can just maybe write that down here. I got lawful and common. Says an elf can speak elf, gnoll, hobgoblin, and orc. Wow. So I get elf, gnoll, and my hand's going weird because I'm kind of having to write sideways. Gnoll, hobgoblin, and orc. So there's a thing about detection, but that's the game master rolls that, and if he rolls a 1 or a 2 on a d6, then I get detected. I have an immunity to ghoul paralysis, so I want to write that down. I was in a Pathfinder game not too long ago where a character of mine was attacked by a ghoul and paralyzed, so being immune to that is something that I had completely forgot that elves in basic D and D have, but that's a great little ability. And then it says I can use magic spells just as a magic user. Read the descriptions of spells. Elves must obey all the rules for using magic user spells, but not the other rules for magic user class. So that means that I can use a sword and things like that. So it says armor. Elf may wear any kind of armor and may use a shield. Weapons. An elf may use any weapon. So I have a list here of the saving throws. So death ray or poison. This just yeah, it will be a 12. Magic wand will be a 13. Paralysis, turn to stone paralysis. It's funny because on the character sheet they actually reverse what is on here. Dragon breath is 15, and rods, staffs, or spells are 15. So those will be my saving throws. And let's probably, just knowing D&D, if I look on page 39, I'll probably see, let's see, spells can be used just as spellcaster. So if I look at the spellcaster, it probably starts off with hit roll chart, charisma adjustment. So let's see. Let's just go here. Target's AC is a 9. I need a 10. An 8 is an 11. It'll probably just keep going the entire way up. 13, 14. And before THACO even was a concept, you had to do these charts because everything, or a negative number was the best number. But the AC 20 was a 19 to hit, not a natural 20. Natural 20 in basic D&D allowed you to go to -1. So it says I do have a charisma adjustment of +1. So that means that I can get a maximum number of 5 retainers, and their morale would be an 8. So that is interesting. And bonuses and penalties for others are ability score of 14 is a +1. For my intelligence of 12 is no adjustment. Wisdom of 11 is no adjustment. 13 dex is a +1 bonus. Constitution is a +1 bonus. So that actually means I get an extra hit point. So that is cool. And then my charisma of the 14 is a +1 bonus. So a lot of +1 bonuses in the middle there. It says roll for money. Roll 3d6 and times by 10. So 1,000 for my money. Really doesn't have a lot of place on it, so you just write it where you want. Armor types is a combination of armor you're wearing plus any adjustments, but you can buy equipment. So let me see where the equipment might be. And everything in this book and a lot of old school books where a lot of things were all mixed around and stuff like that. So so let's see. I want to give myself a sword, and they just have a sword, so that's 10 gold pieces. So I'll remember that the sword is 10. And then let's go ahead and let's go roll to 10. Sorry, not 1,000, 100 gold pieces. I thought that was funny. 100, so I got 90 gold pieces left. I could get plate and a shield. That is 70, 80, so that would give me 20 left. So let's get a shield and plate mail. The plate might cross mail for some reason. Plate mail. Then that would leave me 10. So let's see. I could get some standard rations for a week. Standard rations 1 week. And I get 6 torches for 1. 6 torches. So that's 4 gold left. A water skin. 3 gold left. And I definitely want the 10-foot pole. That was a very important piece of equipment. So that would leave me 2 gold left after my equipment. So that's funny. They have a complete list, which is separate than the list of stuff you can buy. But the normal sword is still the 10 gold. So I will be happy with a normal sword and a shield. Here on the different character classes, it says that number of spells per level. I get one first level spell. So if I look at first level spells, I'm hoping that there will be Magic Missile. There's Magic Missile, so I'm just going to go ahead and pick that as my spell. First level Magic Missile. Kind of interesting. They tell you the adjustment for the ability scores here, and then over here they do charisma, which is the last one. And then you go through this whole thing on how players are not characters, which is important because and even I will every once in a while will split, oh man, I killed a player. No, you didn't kill a player. Hopefully you killed a character. If not, you should be going to jail. So things like that. How to prepare, the mapper and caller, which I talked about earlier. Treasure, marching order, character alignment. Like I said, that there was only, I said lawful, but it was law. Chaos and neutrality. So law or lawful, chaos or chaotic, neutrality or neutral. Down over here are the 3 alignments. They go into traps, encounters, missile weapons, different types of damage, and then way over here they talk about your initiative adjustment based off of your dexterity. So my dexterity is a +1, so I get a +1 to the initiative. So that works as well. I'm trying to find where the AC is. Probably be able to find it in the middle where it had all those charts. So here it is, armor class. Plate is a 3, and then you get a bonus of 1, but it subtracts because remember, in old school D&D, the lower was better. So with the plate mail of 5 and the shield, plate mail, yes, of 3, and the shield with the bonus of 1, that would give me a 2 armor class. And then if you look here, you get a 2. Most people, starting people, would need a... Writing my 7 sideways was a little difficult, means that most people would need a 17 to hit me. And then the weapon, I got the normal sword, which is here. Let focus. The D8. I'm not sure why it's not. There we go. A D8. So his sword is 1d8. That's the damage. So pretty much that is the basic D&D BECMI rules character sheet. So here I have Alar, the elf. Let me prop that up. I guess I could write the he's level 1 and he's an elf. 2 armor class, a nice good 7 hit points, which is pretty good. Decent abilities. Cool immune to ghoul paralysis. My hits and everything else. I want to draw a little elfie. I'm not putting any time into it, but here's a little pointy ears. I'll give him long flowing locks because he's a pretty elf. And I'll just cut it off there because his body will be bad. So there we go. Alar, the D&D basic elf. Thanks a lot for watching. Hopefully I'll actually have 31 systems around here that I can do 31 days. That's one of the things I'm wondering, if I actually have that many systems. But I am Lehman Crafton, Zorvalachan, Less Than Guru, and until tomorrow when I try to make another character in another system, I wish you all a good day.